This headline splashed across newspapers from Germany to Australia. One report claiming not only was the NSA tapping the private cell phone of the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, ever since 2010, but that President Obama knew about it. The NSA hitting back, trashing the report with this statement, saying General Alexander did not discuss with President Obama in 2010 this alleged foreign intelligence operation involving German Chancellor Merkel, nor has he ever discussed alleged operations involving Chancellor Merkel. News reports claiming otherwise are simply not true. Germany may be in the spotlight here, but that is just one of more than 30 countries. We're talking about U.S. allies here, saying they are furious now at the alleged extent of NSA surveillance on their turf. Today, the U.S. ambassador to Spain was called in for a dressing down by the Spanish foreign minister, a Spanish newspaper publishing a shocking number, 60 million phone calls of average citizens intercepted by the NSA in the past year alone. So joining me now, Christian Amanpour, CNN's chief international correspondent, and Julian Delazar, historian and professor at Princeton University. So welcome to both of you. And Christian, to you first, because the big pushback, coming from this unidentified source, the Wall Street Journal, saying that the president did not know that the NSA was spying on foreign leaders, put a stop to it, as soon as he found out. So let's take the president at his word. Why didn't he know?
Well, look, I have absolutely zero idea about whether he knew, whether he didn't, why he didn't, or what. What I do know, though, is that spying has been, as old as diplomacy itself. It is part of accepted statecraft. It's not pleasant. They don't like it, but they all know it happens. I think the issue is the publics in Europe who are very upset. In Germany, they're very upset. Ever since the NSA leakage started with Edward Snowden months ago, they started to be very, very upset in Germany. Partly because of their history with the Stasi, the secret police under the communist regime, and partly because they thought that this president would be different. They thought that President Obama would somehow do something different in national security than President Bush. And so that's, colored their opinion. But as former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright has said, everybody does it. I was even bugged by the French when I was U.S. ambassador to the UN.
But Julian, should he have known if the NSA was tapping, say, a personal cell phone of a world leader?
Well, certainly the president doesn't know everything that's going on with the NSA, and we shouldn't expect that. But when you're talking about the surveillance of world leaders and an issue that's been controversial for a while now, you would expect that there's some knowledge either by the president or people surrounding him. He hasn't really said much about the second part of that. But I do think they're surprised that this was off the radar in the inner circles of the White House.
Christian, you point out spying, one of the world's oldest professions. Do you think that these world leaders, knowing what they know about spying, do you think they are genuinely upset, or is this feigned anger?
I think they're upset, and they are also playing to their publics. Before Angela Merkel, it was Dilma Rousseff, who is the president of Brazil. She was very upset to know that her emails had been looked at, her personal emails and others, and as you know, canceled a state visit to the United States. So it's being reacted to in this way by many of the world leaders. There is an agreement called Five Eyes between the English-speaking allies, that's the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, to share intelligence and not to spy on each other, but others fall outside that parameter. And genuinely, or rather generally, it's assumed that everybody knows this is happening. Now, the fallout, though, is pretty difficult to judge and to gauge, but certainly it's having an impact on U.S. foreign policy, on the way it talks and discusses, and not only that, collects information, and it's also having an impact in the fact that, lots of people in Europe, especially leaders, are not cutting the U.S. as much slack as they might have done in the past.
No.
Partly, they're saying, because the U.S., under the Obama administration, is backing off a lot of the burden sharing, a lot of the heavy lifting that traditionally the U.S. has done in support of its allies over the past.
But because of the fallout, because of the anger amongst these world leaders, Julian, do you think someone's head should roll over this?
Well, we're going to see what the administration does. I think two things to remember. President Obama himself raised a lot of the expectations about the differences with how he would conduct national security operations, and those resonated both here and around the world. So it might be that in the end he tries to blame someone. He himself now, with this report coming out that he ordered this to stop, it's something of an admission that this shouldn't be business as usual. And the second thing is this is a surveillance that's very different than people were used to in previous eras because of email and internet spying. So I think the president is going to do something, and I do think he's feeling that the political fallout is significant.